if I heard you correctly, you concluded that the Congress is probably not the body to look to if you would like to do better than we now do. So it sounds like you're telling us that things are quite hopeless.
Yeah, it's actually worse than you depicted just now. It's believe it or not, it is. Because the Supreme Court has another little trick up its sleeve besides engaging in these kind of ridiculous flights of economic fancy by aggregating conduct. The other thing about the court that you need to understand is that they are very enthusiastic supporters of pretextual justifications for government power. So that's a really problematic sort of dyad here. In other words, it interacts with the overall failure to enforce federal limits on government power because there are some things that federal law enforcement is permitted to do. And I'll give you one example, which is the one they claim they're operating under, which is to protect federal operations and federal property. So in other words, the rationale for deploying most of these officers to, or I should say agents to Portland, is to protect the federal courthouse and ensure that it can keep on doing business. Now, I think rather clearly, at least some of these federal agents are doing a lot more than that. They're primarily there, in my opinion, for pacification, essentially to disband what are being described as rioters. Of course, the difference between a protester and a rioter maybe sometimes in the eye of the beholder. But the problem, or one of many problems here, is that the Supreme Court for decades has not only endorsed but even kind of urged the government to offer purely pretextual justifications for the exercise of various powers. And that really sort of lights a fuse here, right? Because if you've got a bunch of federal agents on the ground in Portland, Oregon, and a judiciary that says, hey, as long as you assert that you're down there to protect a courthouse, a federal courthouse, don't worry, we won't take too hard a look at what you're actually doing there. That is precisely the message that the judiciary has sent to both state and federal governments.